What's up everyone, this is Ryan here, and I am pretty excited for this video because this is a video where we get to tie everything together and check out a demo and see if this thing actually works. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to bounce around and make the final changes to various classes, and the reason for this is while we were creating these classes, some of the things that we were going to add to them didn't exist at the time that we were creating the class. And that's because building programs just really doesn't work in a totally linear fashion. So what I'll do is I'll take you through those final changes. I'm going to try and compile the project and run it. If I did forget anything and have any errors, which is very, very likely because this is a moderately, well, not a large-scale project, but it's a fair size, then I'll actually take you through the process of finding and fixing those errors. So I'm sort of partly excited if I don't have any errors, but also kind of excited if I do have some, and I can take you through that sort of hunting process. So yeah, let's just kind of jump in here. Calculation is done, so we can leave that alone. Let's open up display fragment, and I remember there's two methods that we needed to handle down here. So the first was show result, and when we receive this message, show result, or sorry, when we receive the result of our calculation, we're going to say display, which is our text view, dot set text result. Easy enough. We're also going to send a toast message in the event that we receive an error message. So we're going to say toast dot make text, and we're going to say context will be get application context, or sorry, get activity. The string is, of course, going to be result, or sorry, message. And the duration, we're just going to do short. So we'll do toast.length short. And then we need to type show, otherwise it won't show up. And so yeah, that's all we need to do. So when we receive the result of any change, any valid change to our current expression, then we're going to update the display with that. Otherwise, we're going to just show a error message as a toast. So that should be everything for display fragment. Let's head over to calculator presenter. A couple things we need to do here. So for starters, we created a new interface inside of calculation, which was this calculation result. Calculation result. And we need to set that up with our calculator presenter. So you're just going to type calculation result dot. Oh, yeah, it did it for me. And then we're going to hit Alt-Enter, implement methods, on expression changed. Man, I hope that, like, after the number of interfaces that you had to build here, hopefully the concept of them has really cemented. As I said before, I want to actually do a proper video on them, explaining them, but yeah, you got a lot of practical experience with them, so hopefully it's a little bit clearer if it wasn't before. So on expression change, so this is the the interface method, which gets fired whenever calculation result decides to send an error message or just an updated current expression. I wonder how many times I'm going to end up explaining that. Successful. So if the result was successful, then we want to say publish result, and this is the communication channel that goes to display fragment. That's what that is. Publish result dot show result and result. Else, else, that's what we do. Publish result dot show toast message result. So if you're kind of wondering what this is the interface which display fragment implements. And this is coming from calculator contract. So hopefully that makes sense. So that's all we need to do here. That's just in this particular method. Let's get all of these methods in here set up. So on delete, short click. Okay, so in that event we want to say, I jumped ahead a little bit. So what we need to do is set up we need to actually create a calculation object, excuse me. So what we'll do is we're going to say private, oops, that's totally not where that goes. Private calculation, calc, and we're going to create it just in the constructor here. So that's going to be calc equals new calculator. I keep saying calculator. Calculation, for fuck's sake. Sorry about that. Calc.set calculation result listener, this. And so all we're saying is we're calling this method inside of calculation, set calculation result listener, and we are passing the presenter. That's what this means. And because our presenter implements this interface, then this is valid. Calculation doesn't care what gets passed in here as long as it implements this interface here. So again, hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, that's what we need to set up there. And then we're just going to go through and fix all of these. So calc dot delete character was that one. Calc dot delete expression. Calc dot append number. And we're going to say integer dot to string. And we'll pass number. And what was this one? On decimal click, we just say calc dot on, append decimal. Calc dot, let's see here, perform evaluation. That's when someone hits the equals sign. And then for this one, we say calc dot append operator, and we pass in string operator. All right, let me just double check. I think that's all we need to do there. Well, as far as I'm aware, that's all we need to do there. So obviously what we need to do now is we need to actually create these things. So we're finally going to get to calculator activity. Go ahead and open that up. And what we'll do is we're going to say, let's set up our fragments first. Display fragment equals typecast, display fragment, get support fragment manager, dot, just going to hit enter, find fragment by ID, r.id, dot, frag display. So where is this coming from and what does it mean? So what's happening is, if we go open up our activity again, if you recall, we placed our fragments directly into the layout, and we gave them an ID, frag display, and frag input. So that's all that's happening there. Oh, come on now. Locking up on me. There we go. So yeah, we'll call that and just set up our display fragment, and then let's set up input fragment. Make sure we typecast that properly. Input fragment. And that's going to be frag input. All right, so we've grabbed instances of our appropriate fragments. And now we need to set up our, or create our presenter. So, well, I'll set it up first, and then we'll kind of talk about some stuff after that. Calculator presenter. And when we create our calculator presenter, if we go back to that, we see that it needs something which implements the publish result interface, and that something is display fragment. So we're going to pass in display fragment here. All right. And the last kind of step here is we're going to, for both of our fragments, set the presenter. Display fragment dot set presenter, presenter. Input fragment dot set presenter, presenter. All right, so let's talk about some things here. Because of the way we've structured this app, and because we're basically everything is going to be tied to the activity's lifecycle, then I'm not really concerned about all of these things happening in the activity. Now, in proper examples I've seen, a lot of examples with the model view presenter architecture, What actually happens is you would call setPresenter in the fragment itself. The fragment itself would be setting the presenter. We wouldn't be kind of doing this through the activity. It would be through the fragment's own sort of life cycle. We're not doing that because we're not sort of caring about preserving the fragment or the presenter's state when the activity gets destroyed. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be showing you how to do that because that's something that I need to do more research on, and it's just not really necessary for this app at its current stage. So it's something I will be revisiting, but I just don't want to lead anyone down the wrong sort of path here. And I don't want anyone to assume that this is always how you're going to sort of create and instantiate your presenter and stuff like that. It's quite a bit more complicated than that, and there's a lot of different things that you need to think about. But anyways, we're going to kind of just leave that there. So if I'm not mistaken, and I quite likely am, then our app should be set up and ready to test. So what we'll do is I'm going to fire it up, see if there's any errors. If there isn't, we'll just jump straight into the demo, and if there is, I'll walk you through fixing them. Alright folks, error number 1. Go ahead and open up Display Fragment and head over to the onDeleteLongClick method. And the error that I've gotten here is it's saying that @onLongClick methods must have a Boolean return type. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to change that from void to Boolean or Boolean, and then we're just going to return true. And oops. That requires the return keyword. And I forget exactly how this works, but the reason why we return true is it has something to do with making sure that we don't do a short click and a long click. So that's basically how that's going on there. Error number 1. Let's see if there's any more. All right, error number 2. Not technically an error, just a mistake. So what we can do is go ahead and open up buttonoperation.xml. Maybe some of you caught this when I actually did this already, but what we need to do is just change this to color primary dark so that the background of the operation buttons are dark blue, and then the accent color is the mint green. And I'm just going to double check on the V21 to make sure it's not messed up as well. And operation, and that one is looking good. So error number 2, I think we're good after this. We'll see. All right, this is going to be an interesting one. So we're up to error number 3. No, we don't have a working demo, but I think this error in particular is going to be really valuable because it's going to allow me to show you how to use breakpoints. Now, what I'm going to do is I'll break down the process of what's going on here. So I've actually managed to get the emulator running, and it looked like everything was basically fine, and then I hit a number, and it wasn't showing up at all. So what are kind of the things that you want to be thinking about in a scenario like this with one of your apps? So first thing is, this is my approach to solving bugs. So what is the first simplest solution that could be causing this? I'm not getting any error messages, so I have no real hint as to a starting point in terms of like errors. So my first instinct would be to check, is the color of the text white on a white background? Because let me tell you, I made that mistake once and I'll never make it again. I spent like 3 days trying to get this, I can't remember exactly what it was. I think I was building a recycler view for like the first time, and I had white text on a white background, and I just could not understand what was going on. So that would be the first thing I would check. Now, I don't even really need to check that, and here's why. If I type 5.5, if it was just white text on a white background, I should be able to hit any of the operators and there shouldn't be an error. When I touched multiply, it tells me that there's an empty expression. So what that tells me is that these numbers are not getting written to current expression. So that's the first step. So we've kind of given ourselves a hint. Okay, it's not like a style issue, a XML attribute problem. And the error appears to be happening in either the presenter or it's happening in the calculation. Now, how do I know that it's not happening in the fragment? Well, my main intuition there is that if I'm receiving this error message, that means the data is making it to the calculation object, because that error message is originating from the calculation object. So let's just have a quick look here. Let's look at calculator presenter. So I know just from remembering that the method that's being clicked or called is onNumberClick. Now I can glance at this and say, well, nothing's really happening that seems out of the ordinary. So that doesn't appear to be the issue. I thought I'd check maybe I called the wrong method down here. No, that's not the case. Chances are the error needs to be in calculation. So let's have a look at this append number class. Now, when I was solving this error, the answer was not immediately apparent to me. What I did is, and this is something that'll be super useful to you, this assumes that you have a working emulator or a device. What I did is just beside this if statement here, I clicked just in this little space here to create a breakpoint. That's what that little red button is. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to hit stop on my emulator, and then I'm going to hit debug. And then I'm going to select my emulator again. I could also select my phone, but I'm just going to do the emulator so that you guys can see it. And I'm going to hit OK, and that's going to start the debugger up, and it's going to take a little bit for that thing to get started. Perfect. So, this is really damn cool if this is the first time you've ever seen this. So we've got this set up. I'm going to hit this button, and it's going to fire this method eventually. And we're going to see what's going to happen. Notice we have this little console down here. I'm going to hit 7, and boom. We've paused the program. As you can see, the state is absolutely paused. And what it's allowing me to do is it's allowing me to check what the variables are. So I can see the string number is equal to 7. So that means that whatever's getting sent to this method is in fact valid. I do want 7 to show up there. If it was blank, then obviously something's really suspicious. Well, if it was anything other than 7, then something has happened before this method that is the error. In this case, up until this point, up until this point, I know that everything is working more or less fine. Let's hope my emulator restarts today. So that's my first kind of hint there. Now, it didn't take me long to figure out what the issue was. I knew that 7 was getting passed in here properly, and yet current expression wasn't changing. Now, probably a lot of you already noticed this already, but it turns out what the error is. I'm just going to shut down my debugger just by hitting the stop. It turns out what the error is I'm not actually adding anything to current expression. I'm returning current expression, but I'm not changing it. I'm not appending the number, which is what, like, you have one job. This method has one job, and that's to add the number to the expression. So all we're going to do is we're just going to say current expression plus equals number. And that is going to solve our issue. Let's jump back into the emulator and see if it's finally working now. This may take a moment. Man, I really hope that's the last error. All right, let's just give it a shot here. 89 times 2. 178. Let's delete a couple characters. Oh, it's working. Let's do 178 divided by some random, bizarre, odd number, 5. I know that's going to give me like a long decimal answer. Equals 35.6. Okay, well that wasn't actually as long of a decimal as I thought it would be. Let's try something even more ridiculous. How about, let's Let's try 9 divided by 7. That's going to be a weird one. Okay, as you can see, it's quite long, and I actually need to move the text view just to see the whole equation. Now, obviously, I don't want to have to hit X like 13,000 fucking times to clear this, so now we're going to test our long click. Perfect. Now, this is actually like the first time I'm testing this after fixing that error. So everything appears to be working well. Let's just try each of the buttons. So let's say 9 divided by 9 should be 1. Yep. 1, let's just clear that. 1 times 5 should be 5. Let's say 5 plus 5, 10. And yeah, everything appears to be working. Oops, let's clear that out. 6 minus 3, 3. Awesome. Let's see if our decimals are working. 2.5 times 2, 5. So, as I mentioned before, there's one part where we can kind of break our program if the user really wants to, and that's by hitting decimal. Just like that. Now, that's going to make Arity scream. In fact, we're just not even going to let it accept it, and that's a good thing. So, there is one scenario here that we could handle, and that would involve sort of examining the various strings and doing a bunch of stuff like that. And I just quite frankly didn't want to handle that situation. So yeah, but that's basically it. So hopefully that little, that couple minutes of probably everyone laughing at me for making some stupid errors, I wanted to actually capture that for 2 reasons. And reason number 1 was to show you, if I could, how to use the stepper, the debugger. And reason number 2 kind of gets into why I am doing this and sort of why I chose the name Wiseass for this channel. And the reason for it is that I want people to know that you don't... Let me put it this way. When I first learned about programming, I kind of thought you had to be a genius to be able to write code, or at least to write advanced code. And I'm not going to say that I've created anything spectacular, but I have, in learning things on the internet, and with one single Java class that I took in college and then I dropped out of college, I have built several full applications at this point. And the point I want to get across is that you don't need to be a genius. The reason why I chose the name Wiseass is that I never really think of myself as being anything really other than an ass. Like, the moment I start thinking that I have shit figured out is the moment when I start to become an idiot, when I stop learning. And that's really what being a wise ass is about to me. It's about learning continuously, which is part of being wise, but recognizing that if you're a programmer, or you're a dishwasher, or you're a theoretical physicist, or all this stuff, it really just, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't be building a huge identity about that. Just focus on the learning, and I think that's where you really grow as a person. Anyways, enough of that motivational speech. Thank you very much for watching. I'll probably do sort of an outro video just to cover all the different topics, but this is our application. There are a couple things that I didn't cover. I didn't cover building a landscape layout. I'm not going to do that because I don't have time, and it's really just simple. All that I would have done is just created a alternate layout and reduced the padding on the display fragment. That's all I was going to do, but it's really not even worth doing at this point. I'm sure you can figure it out. That's going to be it for now. Thanks for watching, and thanks for all the awesome support. I've got a lot of great content planned for the new year. I don't have a lot of time until then, but I plan on getting a proper video camera, getting a web camera, hopefully doing some streaming of code, which I think would be really awesome, and absolutely getting into some videos which are more applicable to things outside of Android Studio, so like coding in general and stuff like that. So thanks for watching, and we will see you later.